The elders would tell them what happens in a birth. When they hit puberty, somebody would go with village midwives to a birth. That was the culture. That community we have lost. There are still some old school doctors who believe that women can birth on their own and we don't have to do much. The thing is, we have to find them.
This is the Birth Agni podcast, the fire that brings us alive, that burns myths and opens a channel of authentic natural birth stories. This show debunks the many myths of the medicalized births, showcases the plethora of choices a pregnant couple can make to embark on their empowered birth journey. I'm Divya Kapoor, a certified birth and lactation counselor and an aspiring traditional birth attendant. Let's get the flames blazing high. This is the Birth Better series, which aims to remove the dust on how birth is being viewed in the mainstream as pain and suffering, as against a possibility for every woman to embrace her highest powers. Tapasya and I sit together, unraveling significant truths about the beautiful births that many women are capable of having. Tapasya is a natural childbirth consultant, a doula, and a birth keeper who provides holistic care to women who want to birth in their entirety and complete embrace of the divine.
Good morning. Tabassi, we've been speaking about how birth education is important, and that's like the underlying thing for the entire preparation for birth. That's just the base. But there are cities in the country where finding a doctor who kind of supports a normal birth, that is also very difficult. So, for people who are in cities where there are no options of a birth center or a midwife, how do they go about finding the best place to be able to birth?
Finding a doctor is difficult. All you have is finding your resources and educating yourself on how my birth is going to go. And that becomes also a little difficult because people think that a birth educator is telling them to distrust the doctor, but we are telling them to ask questions to the doctor. A simple example is, in pregnancy doctor is prescribing so many things. Now the trend of prescribing ecospirin, routinely to women, giving them tdap shot in their 7th month, giving the glucose tolerance test, the elaborate one of 3 hours, is also very common. But these are the things you have to do in special cases. When you medicalize the pregnancy itself so much, the woman gets this fear that what am I going to do without doctor, and I cannot distrust my doctor. So I cannot ask questions, because asking questions to a doctor and to a teacher, we have been told from from the beginning that no, you don't do that, because you have to be
Right.
an obedient.
Yeah.
So how do you navigate it? It's actually a very difficult question. That's why we need more doulas, more birth educators, and more mothers who are asking questions, which currently I don't find they are. For example, in a city like Lucknow or in a city like Kolkata, where there are almost, but most of the OBGYNs are very, very keen on using their tools, their surgeries.
Yeah. Should we say that the knowledge of physiological birth, how birth unfolds, how birth happens, is not there with the obstetric system, and they know how to prevent or work towards preventing the so called emergencies. That's what they're working towards. So, if you want to ensure that perceived bubble of safety, then of course. But if you want to birth and have those dreams of natural birth and want to birth even just vaginally, if I have to, then you need to do the work by yourself, because relying on a system to tell you this is how it will happen is really not owning your own birth.
I had a client who was having her baby in times of COVID, and she wanted a home birth originally, but of course I couldn't travel, and originally she also was thinking about doing an unassisted birth with her husband. But it so happened that just last few weeks of pregnancy, COVID in her family was at the peak. So she said, finally, I'm going to the hospital. But she had prepared herself so thoroughly that she exactly knew that she didn't want to go early. She didn't let the doctor do a vaginal check. So the doctor said, how am I supposed to assess your progress? Because that is the only way they know of assessing progress in labor is doing a vaginal check, which actually is, it's a very crude kind of estimate, and it never tells you when the birth will happen actually. So she didn't let anything do. So doctor was like, if you are not doing letting me do anything, not even put a heplock in your hand. Heplock is the portal you put for IV fluids. And she said, I don't want IV fluids, because she was thoroughly understanding what happens in birth, how her body works, and she knew that if nobody disturbs her, her labor is going to progress, without any complication. She just had that intuition.
And that was her first birth, right?
First birth, she didn't like the experience because she was put on her back, and she was not allowed to eat and drink, and the episiotomy and the placenta was taken, forcefully. The normal management of placenta, that she just didn't like. She wanted a different experience. So doctor said, if you are not letting me do anything, I live 10 minutes of distance, I'm going home. I don't know when you will deliver. So when it's time, the nurses will call me.
That's such a
And
nice thing to do. Go back, go home. We
that's
like
what,
it.
if you don't need her, you don't need her. So she went back, and this woman labored beautifully with her husband, and she had her baby standing, the husband holding her from behind, the nurse catching the baby. Somebody called the doctor. The doctor was standing in the door of the room and seeing what is happening and freaking out. This is not possible, you have to be on your back. And she was like, so that you can give me an episiotomy, I mean.
In the face.
And then afterwards, in the postpartum visits, etc., the doctor asked her, are you a gynae, or have gynaes been guiding you, or are you a nurse or something? She said, no,
Yeah.
I just took my childbirth education, I just wanted my birth to go this way, and that's
That
what I
is,
did.
yeah, and that's so crucial to note that here the perception is that you do not know how to birth your baby. Someone else taught you. Someone else knows how you going to birth. So that's where the first dissociation of birth happens. The woman doesn't know how her body and the baby is going to respond to birth. Wherein, in all entirety, you and your baby will definitely know how birth is going to happen. You just need to learn and educate yourself through birth classes to be able to trust that process and say no to things that disrupt that process. And I'm amazed. Somebody needs to tell you how this happens. And a doctor or a nurse would only know. No, definitely not.
In older times, it used to happen in the family, because we were joint families, big families, someone was pregnant at some time, all the time. And the girls just knew, because they saw breastfeeding moms all the time, they saw pregnant mothers all the time. The elders would tell them what happens in a birth. When they hit puberty, somebody would go with village midwives to a birth. That was the culture, that community we have lost. So we have kind of outsourced all the knowledge of our bodies to a so called expert, but actually we are the experts.
And what you just said, Tapas, is so crucial because then from those communities only, the doctors and the experts are going to come out. And when they have seen that a woman can stand, sit, and give birth, they wouldn't be shocked. That, okay, I was taught that I need to make her lie down, which definitely is not the best position to be able to birth your baby. It's counterproductive in a lot of ways. Uh, but then it wouldn't have come out as a shock. It would have been more acceptable.
Exactly, because medical students right now, only in public teaching hospitals, they are seeing normal births. And what we call normal births is again medically managed vaginal delivery, not a normal physiological birth as it happens in nature. And in private teaching colleges, they are learning more and more how to do C sections. I mean, this is the fact. If we are finding that having a vaginal delivery is a luxury in most of our urban areas.
But then in these cities, like you were saying, that if the woman knows how things work, and if she is very trustworthy of, and she's worked with a birth coach, it is possible to be able to probably find a small nursing home, like you were telling me right before we started. That there's relatively smaller nursing homes which would still give you that space.
Yes, there are we don't go to them. There are still some old school doctors who believe that women can birth on their own and we don't have to do much. The thing is, we have to find them, and we cannot find them so easily because we are getting bombarded all the time with glossy advertisements of the, five-star suites of the hospitals, and your insurance and your this and that. So even you book a five-star suite, you are ultimately going to get cut. So
Yeah.
unless and until we realize that, it's not going to change. To labor properly, a woman needs privacy. Nobody needs to do so many things to her. Just yesterday I was listening to a podcast where the birth advocate, she's a lawyer, and she fought a very famous case in USA recently regarding a midwife. She was telling that the research that shows that more and more expensive intervention is, that research is easily accepted. The research which says we don't have to do much in birth and let thing happen, that research is not accepted, and they will say, okay, we need some 200 more studies on that, and we have to think, and we'll do a peer review and this and that. So they don't want to accept. Obviously money is there, money is playing.
Yeah. And if, one of the factors that should definitely not define your place you birth is not just your insurance, not just the baby pictures that they're going to click off your baby right after, which, to be very honest, it's not a very good plan. Giving away the baby to people and microbiomes and who aren't your family. So you're exposing your baby to a lot of people, other people, wherein the baby should be ideally with you and your family, you and your partner. That's the safe space. The idea is to know what to ask, and you can only do that when you have learned, worked with someone who can guide you without any tie up with these places, which it's going to bring a lot of money to them, who are
Exactly.
driven by wanting birth to happen in your empowerment. So try and find those people first, your birth support team. And we definitely need more doulas, like you said, and birth workers in all across the country.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we said. We don't go. The people in our socioeconomics that are in the sense, a little bit higher incomes, they don't go to smaller clinics. And even if the doctor is giving you the autonomy, the woman will say, "Oh, it's not clean enough."
Yeah, and that dichotomy you'd only realize when you know what is the right, not the right way. What's beneficial for you and your baby, and what's not. And how do you know that? Because like you were saying, that the research papers and all the facts that are being propagated may not be right, and all the information that you may think, oh, I'm a science grad, I think all these things that I've been told about birth is absolutely right because that's what they're showing in television, that's what is happening to everybody around me. That may not be right. Find your own answers. And all these births that are happening on Instagram, the beautiful pictures. I know you were telling me one of these days what it only shows is a woman in a bathtub and a jacuzzi, maybe, or if it is in a hospital. And what we are now trying to find out is hospitals with a jacuzzi, and not really asking the very basic questions of, even with a jacuzzi, do I have bodily autonomy? Is water going to just make sure that I'm going to birth in my best way possible? And are you going to be in water throughout? And those very basic questions. And yeah, there definitely is more to it than just a bathtub and beautiful pictures.
I don't know how real it is in the imagination of Indian women, because somewhere they know that this is coming from outside, coming from the West, and we definitely don't have those facilities. Obviously we deserve those facilities. Water birth should be available everywhere, but it is available in very, some corporate hospitals which are advertising that we do water births, but the reality is that they do not allow women to birth in water. They will just allow you to labor in water, and then they will say we have to monitor the baby, you have to do this and that, and ultimately they will get the woman on her back or
Right.
out of the water at least to birth her baby. So we have internalized that I'm not going to find the best possible facilities. Maybe I might just entertain myself with the dreams of having such beautiful birth. That is why we want more midwifery care. I mean, it is happening in just the two birth centers we have. And
And moreover, you and I were also discussing that people can travel to these birth centers even if it's not in your city. So you've seen that with your mothers that they've done that.
yes, they have traveled, but it is expensive and it is not accessible to everybody. Obviously, traveling in last part of your pregnancy, and if you stay in north part of India, traveling there by two days in train cannot be very comfortable, and some airline companies won't even let you fly after your 36, 37 weeks, whatever stipulation they have.
Hmm.
So it is difficult, but yes, people do that.
Yeah. Anyway, we are spending 1.5 lakh rupees in a normal hospital. So if money allows you, that is an area that you can explore. If you really see that you want to birth in a way you want, and birth centers are the option. And the third option would be tapasya, where you do not need to go anywhere to birth.
I really feel that when it is an informed decision, when the couple prepares themselves and takes knowledge of emergencies and makes a plan B, and they have lots of things at hand and they know how physiological labor unfolds, what to expect, they can definitely birth their babies on their own. With or
Hmm.
without midwife doesn't matter. I have seen so
Yeah.
many clients doing this with me, so
Yeah, and
I'm
Tapasya
pretty
also
confident.
offers, yeah, you also offer virtual doula support. So if somebody wants to
Yes,
birth,
I'm a free birth supporter. Not all
yeah,
midwives are.
right. And we are not trying to scare you. We are just trying to tell you the truth as it is. At the end of the day, the decision lies with everybody, how they want to and what they want to do. But with all these three options, even if you want to birth in a hospital, then, like you said, nursing homes or a birth center, home birth, that's the best. Wherever you choose to, without that information, it's very difficult to be able to trust what we're saying, because then you'd question it. So if you'd question it 2 years, 5 years down the line, when this becomes much better, the situation becomes much better, why not take it up right now and choose the best way possible? At least have your options open. And this information gives you the options of what else, if not this.
Then you have to teach your doctor. Once the doctor sees birth unfolds, maybe she will start trusting birth. I mean, that has happened
Yeah,
with so many so many doctors that their personal views have changed once they start working with a doula
yeah. And it's not
or
their
once
fault.
they
They've not.
start working with a childbirth educator, and
Right.
they realize that okay, I really have to do less.
Hmm.
And people are finding it very satisfying experience of motherhood,
Right. Right.
having natural births, and that is what is bringing me more clients.
Hmm.
When that shifts, you don't really have to do so many interventions only for your fears. One positive aspect of it, that we have to start now for our daughters who will be birthing in 20 years, 25 years down the line, because we cannot have 100% cesarean section and somebody has to ask questions. We are building infrastructure, we are investing so much in development, but 50 years down the line we are going to have spent so much money on healthcare, because you cross 50 and you are laden with so many lifestyle diseases and so many ailments that come from what was done to you during birth. We are not realizing this right now, right now is the right time to ask questions, to take your birth back in your hands.
And it's important to, like you pointed out, that know that this is going to affect the next generation. They're going to carry forward all that was done to them into the next generation, and it goes, that memory goes on cellular level. And so it's really important to be able to know what drugs are being given to you, and do you or do you not need it. um, and definitely take it up in your own hands.
There is a field beyond fear, where the body is empowered to take on labor and birth. To land there, it is crucial to take birth education. To enroll into our unique labor and birth preparation course, reach out to us at www.birthagni.com or scroll through all available prenatal and postnatal preparation classes. Thank you for listening, all in the spirit of birth, womanhood, and freedom. Remember, you got the bar. This podcast is about physiological birth and does not offer or claim to provide medical knowledge or diagnosis.